together, and it's at the same time. And thank you, Brian. I'm assuming that's you who started the recording for me. And asynchronous is when you're not there at the same time, but you're still providing your student feedback. You could liken that to putting a note at the top of the page of the assignment that they've turned into you, and you turn it back. And it's not that you're always there having that conversation about the feedback at that point in time. And as we live in this virtual world, that can be additionally important in what kinds of feedback we're giving and how that comes to the students that are in there. So I'm going to go ahead here and share my screen and start the presentation. And just to check from my team, you are seeing the slideshow, I am assuming?
Yep, you're all good.
You're good.
Thank you. All right, so today's presentation is on asynchronous feedback during distance learning, something we never really thought we were going to have to be doing. One place that you can use for that feedback loop is in your Google Classroom. If you are currently a Google Classroom teacher, there are some really high quality tools in there that will allow you the opportunity to receive feedback from students and to give feedback to students.
I'm afraid.
Screenshots here of
Hey guys, I'm here.
I have a couple screenshots here of student view. When you distribute some assignments to students in Google Classroom, they have the ability to use the annotation tools and highlight and mark up on the particular activity that you have given them to work with. In this case, the student was able to actually pencil right on top of the activity, use the highlighter, highlight on top of a particular task, and then they submitted it back to the teacher. At that point in time, the teacher has the ability to comment as a whole comment on the particular assignment. And in this case, I've given just a quick comment piece on that particular task or assignment that was turned back in. But you also have the regular commenting tools that are available to you in any other Google Doc or example. So here, the teacher highlighted an area and then added a comment. And you can do that simply by clicking the comment tool, and it'll ask you to highlight what you're commenting about. And you can very quickly and easily highlight certain parts of a student work and provide comments. On my screen here, the comments coming back is a little cropped off. Hopefully you're seeing that. But the student then was able to comment back to the teacher's comment. So you can actually carry on a discussion and have some feedback, even though you might not be in the same room at the same time. On the far right-hand side, you see the private comment box. That allows the teacher to comment on the entire assignment in some way, shape, or form. So this would be where I could give the student feedback on their actual assignment and their productivity with it, or something that I'd like to see them do as opposed to something specific in the assignment itself. So if you are already a teacher who is using Google Classroom, think about that feedback loop within there. You can comment on individual parts of a submission. You can comment on the entire assignment. And the student is also able to reply back to specific comments to help clarify their understanding. And you can comment back on that to expand that learning or to maybe give a better reference as to what it was that you were interested or looking at doing with that. One of the things to be considering during this time is really quality feedback. This isn't the time to be going through the dit stuff and saying, hey, nice job. I really liked your writing. Make your comments really reflective of the work submitted, expand on the student's learning and understanding of their assignment and their task completion. Any add-ons for the quality feedback message?
I just think it's the piece of kind of finding the balance then, right? Time is the key to that. Giving really quality feedback means finding the balance and not doing too much at one time.
takes us back to a lot about what we talked about last week in some of our sessions about what kinds of assignments we're giving and making sure that it's something that really does have a need for feedback because it's important to the work that you're having the students do. Any other comments?
Nope, none here. Thanks.
Blackboard also has feedback tools embedded within it and ways for you to communicate with your students in a synchronous environment. So if you are currently using Blackboard with your students, again, we said this a little bit yesterday in Kristen's discussion about building collaboration with your students and building that community in Blackboard. If you are not already a Blackboard user, I would not jump in now just for feedback tools. But if you are using the Blackboard currently, there are some fabulous feedback tools available right inside of it for you. On the right-hand side here, I have pictures of some of the different collaboration tools that are embedded in Blackboard. One is a journal. Another would be a blog. You also have the ability to do discussion boards. And just within an assignment, Blackboard has some really great ways for you to provide feedback. So on the left here is an example of a journal. Journals are specific to Blackboard, and they are very similar to a blog. But the idea behind the journal is that it can be left private. So it just is communication between a teacher and a student. And a teacher can start a journal thread or comment piece in there that the students can then reply to, or it can be a free form where the student is starting something in there and communicating back to the teacher. The journals can also be set to be shared publicly with the class, but it would only be for students who are registered in Blackboard for that class. It's not available to other viewers in a Blackboard class. So a journal would be a great way if you kind of think about the journal notebooks that we've had for a long time. A student can write, the teacher can respond and comment on it. The student can comment back to the teacher's comments, and you can carry on a conversation just between the student and teacher within a journal. Into a blog, it's going to be much more public to everyone that is in the class. It's not private between student and teacher, but it really does allow both the teacher and the student to start a topic and have others respond to it. And it does give the teacher the ability to provide feedback to that particular student and the student comment, and the student can then also reply back to the teacher. So this could be a way for you to comment on a particular work or assignment and get some feedback from your students, as well as providing them feedback on the topic and continuing their learning. Discussion boards are very, very similar in that they can be off a specific theme or be used as a particular topic within Blackboard. They can be seen and contributed to by all. Teachers can provide points. They can assign a rubric to a discussion board, and you can also then use it as written feedback for the particular assignment or topic or contribution that's coming in there. In Blackboard assignments, you have the ability to attach and or comment on the contribution that's been submitted by the student at that point in time. So if you are already using Blackboard to deliver content, it might be a great way to add in some extra pieces that allow you to provide feedback to your students, to allow students to provide feedback to each other, and continue that discussion around your content or topics. Again, here, my message is that meaningful feedback. It's a great place to build relationships, deeper understanding of a topic. It's a great place to allow students to provide feedback to each other asynchronously. You line together at the same time in order to be able to have that conversation. And it's all kept in one place, as opposed to finding, well, it's here or it's in Teams or we sent it in an email. That's all located in a spot within the classroom content that can be making it a really important place to go and get that feedback. Other thoughts, questions?
Hi, Wendy. This is Teresa Leo. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. I teach art itself, and I was wondering, I have not used the BB9 journals component, but can students save those journal pages as docs? Because it seems like it'd be a nice, almost like a portfolio of work if they could do that.
That would be something that I would have to look into. A journal, the way it's set up in Blackboard, is really more of a threaded conversation piece. So it's meant to be within Blackboard. Certainly they could screenshot it, but I'm not sure if they can pull it out to be a physical page in another entity. That would be something I will write down and we will check on it for you.
Okay, so you don't know if they are JPEGs.
It's not built that way.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions? We also have a great number of apps that we use in our core apps and things that we have already been using with students that will allow you feedback options. Again, I'm not going to say throw a new app out there just to use it for feedback, but we have many that are built and able to provide feedback in an asynchronous environment with your students. VoiceThread is one of them. VoiceThread is built into Blackboard. So again, it would be one if you're using it in Blackboard itself. And there is a video linked in here. We'll share with you this presentation so you can actually watch the video. But the video allows the students the ability to comment, and it allows a teacher to comment on a student's voice thread. So it depends on how you set it up within your classroom. I'll give you just a flavor of it here. The idea behind a voice thread
Just so you know, we can't hear the audio on there, so you might need to talk over it.
Okay. So the idea is that you can submit, slide back here, and I'll pause it. The media is submitted, but at that point, the editing tools come in and are really huge as a tool to comment on the student work. So I'm going to slide it here to. So you have these abilities to add to that particular presentation. So I could add a text note, I could add an audio note, I could create a little video piece to go with it. But the submission comes in as a work piece from the student, but then you can set it so either other students can comment on it or the teacher can comment on it. It's a great way to kind of evaluate and look at the work the student has done and give them feedback on specific pieces of it without having to do a great deal of commenting or trying to write it out outside of the voice thread piece. And hop back here. Flipgrid is another excellent way to provide feedback. And the teacher does have a lot of moderation pieces that can be part of the Flipgrid, as well as whether or not you want students to be able to provide feedback to each other or just the teacher to student and student to teacher. Kristen went into Flipgrid quite a bit yesterday, and we are going to be covering it more next week. It's a great way for students to be able to show what they know and have a teacher provide feedback fairly quickly and easily, because you can do it in audio form rather than having to write out something. And again, you can pull up specific pieces of their work to say, hey, my comment here. Especially now that they've added the screen sharing and whiteboarding for students, it's a great way for them to demonstrate their understanding and allow you a quick and easy way to provide feedback to students asynchronously without having to have them online with you at that particular time. We have many other apps within SDW that we probably are already using in the classroom that you can use to provide feedback. Brian presented on synchronous feedback on Tuesday and talked about the ability to do things in docs and sheets and slides and the Google Jamboard. Those also work really well asynchronously. If you're working within your WebEx teams, you can provide feedback to students or entire groups that does not have to be synchronous. You can post, and when they get back online, they're able to see what your comments were, take your feedback, and apply it to what it is that they're working on. Simple things like clips would allow you to create a quick video that could be sent to a student as feedback on a particular activity. You can even demonstrate yourself walking through their particular work and record audio on top to be able to show what it was that you were looking at when you were providing that particular feedback point. Something like Book Creator allows the teacher both audio and text feedback on a particular task that a student is doing. It's a little more complicated, and it has the process of the student has to submit it to you, and you have to submit it back to them as a book creator for them to see all those pieces. But if it's a tool your students are already using, it can be an excellent way to have a conversation around feedback on a particular task or assignment. So as you think about some of those pieces, what are you already using? What's a part of your workflow now? Or might you want to add to be able to really close that feedback loop, knowing you don't have your students right in front of you? Think about that accessible feedback factor. We want it to be familiar to students. We don't want it to be a new tool that has to be learned. We really just want it to be something that provides an extra piece in your workflow to provide that quality, meaningful, and now accessible feedback to your students. And how can you use that to provide individual feedback that really encourages growth? We don't have enough time in our day to be doing what I call the dit feedback. We want it to be meaningful to the work the student has done and something that will move them forward. And we're going to take some time here for questions and answers. Are there any questions that you have out there? Just as a note, next week, we will be digging in deeper on some of these apps and tools that we have been talking about this week, so that if you're saying, I'm really, really interested in that Flipgrid piece, you would have the ability to come into a session on Flipgrid and learn that a little bit deeper. And if you're interested in some of those Blackboard pieces, you could hop in on the Blackboard day and find out more about using those collaborative tools.
I'm good, Wendy. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Wendy.
I'll throw up a last slide here, just so you know where to find us, either in our WebEx Meets or emailing at ITC gets all three of us, so you will get a faster answer, hopefully from one of us that's available at that point in time.
Just a quick anecdotal piece, but something from the world where I live, where I have two girls who are working and living this virtually. The big thing that's been super interesting is watching when they get the feedback, how they're inspired to get it back into the work again. So we've watched for a while as sometimes the teachers are assigning things that aren't just getting a ton of feedback. And so the girls are like, turn it in, but that's the end of it. As soon as they get feedback, they jump right back into the thing they were working on and either do it better, do it differently, or they apply it. But that becomes the conversation piece, because honestly, when we think about it, some of the things that kids have to share at the dinner table with us at night or whatever are pretty limited. We've all been in the same space all day long. So that feedback becomes really important then.
Definitely. And it shows that the work was meaningful enough for the teacher to reply and give feedback on it, makes it just that much more important to the student on the other end.
And I think it's also important to remember how important that connection with you and your classmates is. This morning, I was able to jump into one of my model tech teachers. She decided another way to reach out to her students and to create community with her students was to do a read aloud, even though they're not doing the LDG groups anymore. Her kids still were looking for that connection, and just able to listen to her read for 15 minutes was like the best thing in the entire world. These kids were so excited to connect with her, and she would stop and pause, and they would have that kind of conversation and feedback, and she'd ask for clarifying questions and things. Just even those little pieces, and it just reinforces how very important teachers are at this time, just to be connecting with those students. So that's it.
Thank you, Kristen. Good point. All right, if there aren't any other questions, comments, I will go ahead and we will close out today's session. Thank you very much for attending, and this will be posted probably tomorrow. It takes about 24 hours for our recordings to post up to our playlist available from the virtual learning site. And we thank you for attending today.
Thanks, Wendy.